Good morning, and thank you all very much for coming to this special sneak preview of The King and I in Rehearsal, which we'll have some extracts from in a moment, and then we'll have a bit of Q&A as well. I'm Howard Panter. I'm a co-producer of The King and I, and I'm really thrilled that you're all here, and I'm really excited that we also have with us the two original Broadway stars of this extraordinary award-winning production. The part leads the absolute dream team of other creatives, designers, collaborators, orchestrators, conductors, and so on, all of whom are from the original Broadway production, all of whom are over here to recreate this great production again, fresh in its absolutely rightful London home, the beautiful London Palladium.
It's always a little nerve-wracking to do something in rehearsal, so I hope you'll lend your imaginations to the informal nature with which we are doing this compared to what you'll see at the Palladium. So we'll talk more about the show and where it started later, but let's just jump in with a few extracts. Well, the first, we're going to do 5 sections. The first 2 are Hello Young Lovers, an excerpt of Hello Young Lovers, going right into Getting to Know You. And then we'll do a little bit at the end of the first act. We'll do a song of Tut Tim and Luntaz, and we'll do maybe some shabba-dance at the end. It's relatively, there are sections of each one, so you'll see. But let's start, just jump in.
Now that last sentence was, English words are all we speak. I didn't quite understand. I want to hear the beginnings and the ends of your words. 1, 2, 3.
And English words are all we speak at the Royal Bangkok Academy.
Stand out, children.
Which of you wants to tell the story about how you two came together? Because, Ken, you were quite reluctant.
Yeah, so, just 5 years ago, I get a call from Bud, and then I want to offer, I get to offer some King and I and a King, Great King or something. Really? I didn't believe that. It's just, oh, it's okay. I will go for you shooting plays, and then he came to the Vancouver when I shot it in the Gazella, and then he explained a lot on his vision and his imagination, and then his plan of the King and I and something. And interesting. But
I actually said, please come be our king. I sort of laid it out very boldly, because it was very hard, it's impossible for the cast. You need somebody, he's just got enormous skills, stage skills, presence. I've recently seen before that Letters from Iwo Jima, which is just an amazing film where he plays the sort of commander in that, and he just has that kind of stature that only really comes with what makes a king. And once you have that presence and brings all this sense of what is the strength of Asia really with him into the piece, we always go through all these different layers of what some people would call cultural appropriation or whatever they are in terms of how they did this piece. When they originally did it, we've talked about this, the original cast had almost 70 people in it in 49, and 2 of them were Asian. Okay, because of course in that era, no one really thought about those things. It really felt like we had to do something that was not a decorative Orientalism or sort of exotic take on what that world was, but a real take on the struggles of this king, etc. And that started with a great actor who could embody all the qualities of a king.
And Kelly, you didn't need any introduction nor persuasion, did you? How long had this been in the offing for you before it came about?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say, because I wanted to add to that, I think the real difference between Ken as our king and someone who's played it before is that I think a lot of people have played the king, and it's like we have the king, the actual king. That's how he kind of feels in our space and in our world. We all admire and look up to him, and he's our leader, and the way he treats other people he's kind of this being in our area, in our space. And it's really built a show very realistically, I should say, as opposed to characters. I should do that. As opposed to characters, we're actually having something that feels really quite real. Yes, Bart and I started with Light in the Piazza, then South Pacific, and I think that, and we did another show in between,
Bridges of
Madison County, and then I think with the conversation of The King and I, it just felt like the next step together as we both got older, as we were telling different kinds of stories. So yeah, not a big question in my mind, just when do we start?
You came on in that fantastic blue skirt, which is kind of sort of now can be seen as a kind of political symbol.
Sure.
I wonder if you could talk about your Anna is and where she sits in the history of gender and sexual politics.
Yeah, I mean, it seems they were quite ahead of their time when they wrote it. But in a way, she very much stood for those types of things too. And I think that she was trying to, very nobly, bridge gaps without throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, she says in the show, it's symbolic. It is a protective layer. And I don't think she meant because she was scared, but because a woman can ask for respect and a certain bit of stateliness and a little bit of power. For me, people can't get close to me, and I don't like that. But in that day and age, when she traveled far away from her home, all by herself with her child, there was probably a layer of protection that she actually very much needed in order to be as strong as she could be. I think my Anna is a woman with a lot of vulnerability underneath that. She's doing the best she can, and I think that skirt helps her a lot, to be honest, at that time.
What we do?
You are coming with me. You have been a slave long enough. Secret police will all be at the theatre. Meet me here after your play. Everything is arranged.
I cannot believe it.
I can. It will be just as I have pictured it 1,000,000 times. I have dreamed.
The king is a fascinating figure. It's 1862, it's the middle of the Civil War in America. Victoria's on the throne. He looks to other leaders for inspiration. It was one of the few places in Asia and around the world where sort of industrialization is sweeping and colonialism, and they were besieged on all sides by different colonial forces. And you see him worried about this and trying to decide how to transform his culture. So he brings in the school teacher just to do something radical, which is educate his children and educate his wives and give them tools for modernizing culture. And we see that in different respects, in developing countries now or even in our own, where those values go. And so it's kind of a history play. And the struggle in it is very dramatic and really fun and really
So for you, it remains a story for now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's for us. We did a lot of things like education of women in the third world, and we do talk about how the presence of a strong woman within the context of relationship to power and her own. So those issues are all present in it. But for me, it's specifically about the struggle between traditional cultures and modernity, and how you lift a culture out of. So, for example, one of the most telling things is that Chula Longhorn asked the king, she's told him that the world is a ball with a stick through the middle that spins. And he says, isn't that insane? We all know that the world is, rides on the back of a turtle, from a myth in Thai culture. And what do you think of that? And he says, sorry to tell you, I think the world is a ball with a stick through the middle of it. And Chula Longhorn's head explodes because he has to deal with the traditional stories and put them into science and other things and see what happens.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, bright cloud of music, shall we fly?
1, 2, 3, yeah.
Shall we?
Or playing an English woman, although in her original diary, Anna Leonard claims to come from North Wales, doesn't she? But she's English.
She's actually not from North Wales either.
And so, it's a banal question, but you're bringing this English woman to England.
Yes, I've thought about that once or twice.
What have your thoughts been?
My thoughts have been that I want to have the right help to do this correctly. I'm from the southern part of the United States. I talk like this when I've had too much to drink, or if I'm very tired. So I feel like I learned everything I could about this woman, about the time that we're in, about through the help of my director. I've done the work I need to do, but it's definitely about being confident in that and whatever else I'm lacking with that, you know, the human nature that I want to give Anna is something I think that is universal. At least I'm hoping. And the collaboration that we build, not just as Ken and Kelly, but also as Anna and the King in the particular show, I think is something that is also universal. And I feel like the story will tell itself. And my portrayal of her is, I'm just a vessel for that. And I'm going to do the best I can with that. And it's a different, and it makes me nervous, but it also makes me very, very excited. Very excited.
You know, as New Yorkers, we're very welcoming to English actors when they come over to the United States. And we're very generous, and we always are like extremely welcoming. And I think we feel like, you know, people have been really generous and welcoming to us. So we're
Yes.
you know.
Good acting is good acting.
Yeah.
One very good question, and then we've got a little time for a couple of questions from the audience. Just moving from Lincoln Center to the Palladium, what structural changes have you had to?
Yes, it's essentially the theater at Lincoln Center is the Vivian Beaumont Theater is a large thrust. It's probably more pronounced thrust than the Olivier. It allows you to do a lot of incredible things. It's very big upstage space. It comes way into the audience. It's enormously intimate, but it's a completely different way of staging from what we would call a proscenium. So we're constantly in a struggle, and they're in a huge struggle over what they remember of how to perform it at Lincoln Center versus how we're performing it here. So it's been adapted already for that, but it's mostly a kind of thing. The great thing about the Palladium, aside from an amazing theater, is it has a very intimate house for how big it is. So I think it will be well suited to this show, to the kind of intimacy and complexity of it to such a large audience. And I think it's well suited to musicals, so I think we'll be okay.
Are there some questions? Yes.
I just wanted to ask, because there are lots of children in your show, and I'm a parent who likes to listen to theatre, what age you recommend for this? If there are particular scenes, I know the film well, but I don't know this production, if there are any kind of warnings or anything that needs to come with it for smaller kids.
I think at Lincoln Center we did 9, right? 9 and up.
Was it that old? You know, it is a family show. I have 2 kids. My youngest is 4, and she'll see it at 4.5 because she thinks she's about 15. But I feel like there's only one scene really in the second act that could be frightening, but it tells a lot about it, especially for a girl of a certain age, maybe over 8 or 9. I think it's an important thing to see. For maybe younger than that, I'll just have a long talk with my daughter. But
yeah. To be on the safe side, we say 9 because of the sort of what happens at Tough Tim. But parents, you know, are different with their kids in terms of what they expose them to. So if you bring them up, I think any younger than 4 or 5 is a lot. I have 2 kids too, and they've seen it since they were, you know. But you know, they're hanging out in rehearsal, so that it's a little bit different.
Yes.
Any more questions?
No.
No? Great.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry.
Oh, sorry. What do you hope to achieve in this run?
Recoupment?
Well said, Mark.
Sorry. I think, no, I'm sorry. Whenever we've done The King and I, there's a wonderful experience of these musicals in the kind of history of, here in England and whatever. In the 50s, R&H really were basically had the Drury Lane as their home. They did all their musicals there, and it was a big part of people's, you know, growing up. And returning to these stories at a certain point is really interesting, different ages and different times, and you learn different things from them when you go back to them. So it's a little bit like, you know, I don't want to elevate it that way, but it's like a Shakespeare or Moliere or whatever. They're classics, and returning to them occasionally and bringing your children to them to introduce them to our history is beautiful. And also, we have such extraordinary artists that I think it would be, when we originally did it, I had always talked to Howard about bringing it here with Ken and Kelly, because it's very special production, and we've done it in a very certain way, and I think it's something we want to keep working on. So.
And I'd like to say I didn't get to come with South Pacific because I was just giving birth to my first child. And so having done it and not being able to come, it's been a dream of mine to finally get here, to work on the West End. I never have. So I'm just so excited. So that's what I hope to do here, is to do a show on the West End.
I think it's also hard to underestimate. It's a very big deal to have an actor from Japan or from Asia of Ken's stature coming here to the West End to perform. It's a big thing, and it's something very special, because it's sort of, as much as we like to think the world, emanates out of New York, really, London is the international capital of theater in the world.
Right.
And so, so it's an honor for us to be here, and you want to feel like you can bring and expand the work in a larger place, and so it's important to bring it here.
So one more thing I would say, just, all the women love this Shall We Dance? Yeah. Then we could make a little bit different kind of sentimental, very romantic moment. Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, okay.